figure. Oh, okay. I've just been informed that.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So this is a suicide panel discussion hosted by Bardo Cafe, and I really appreciate you being here. We would like to today safely explore and discuss suicide from various perspectives and the hope to alleviate the fears surrounding this topic. Our guest speakers, Walid and Gift, will share their personal stories and offer their individual viewpoints today. And Anja Lang is our clinical psychologist, and she will offer her professional knowledge from her work in suicide prevention. So we hope that this will be of benefit to all who are watching. And our goal today is also to normalize the common human experience of dissatisfaction and discomfort and mental and emotional pain or even suffering. So I'm going to introduce our guest speakers first. Thank you so much for joining, Anja and Walid.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So Walid has a background in political science and has successfully taught world languages. He has been a skilled sailor from the age of 12 and is also a kayak instructor as well as a home builder. Walid was honorably discharged after serving with the Coast Guard. He has 2 sons and is known for his love of the outdoors and diverse skills in various areas of life. And Anja Lang, she has over 13 years of experience as a clinical and organizational psychologist. Her career includes clinical roles in psychiatry, supervisory roles, and her own therapeutic clinic. Anja has experience with suicide prevention from working in a psychiatric emergency response unit in a hospital setting. Thank you so much for joining us. We are actually currently waiting for Gift to come to the meeting, so we will just start the conversation with Anja. Just to tell us a little bit more about your work in suicide prevention and how we can alleviate the fear of talking about suicide and be with someone who might be voicing that they are thinking about taking their own life, and how can we respond?
So I should start now, right? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you. So nice being here. I'm so happy that Bardo Cafe is taking this up. It's like it's so close to my heart, this subject, and yeah, very personal to me. And I'm very happy that we can discuss it in a forum like this. So where I want to start is just that my perspective is from of course a treatment point of view and a clinical point of view. But I'm nevertheless human. So it's also my perspective. It's not necessarily representative of everyone who works in this field. But I want to share as much as I can, hoping that it's useful. So yeah, so maybe I can start with saying just a little bit about that that the research around suicide prediction, or trying to predict suicide attempts, is not really has not really changed for since we've started researching suicide. It's always been impossible to predict. It's really difficult to do research and have any predictable criteria for that. Yeah. So we cannot really predict if people are taking their lives or will take their lives or not. But what we can look at is what correlates with the attempts or the situations of the people that try to take their own lives, and that can be loneliness, mental health histories, substance abuse problems and sort of like that. But all comes down to pain, like mental pain and emotional pain, which, sort of fits with our theme today, dukkha, right? So suicide is really connected to that, suicide attempts. And then in my work, we distinguish between, we try to look at it, from a perspective of pain, but we also distinguish between what we call suicidal ideation, so that's suicidal thoughts, planning, and behavior, and then attempts. And reason I'm saying this, it's because it's important, because I want kind of to put out there that, we have these, you can see natural protective mechanisms against taking our own lives. It's very unnatural to us from a kind of evolutionary point of view and just like human point of view. We have this driving force of survival. So when we look at, when I work with my people, and talk to them, and they have emotional pain and might have suicidal thoughts, it's very important for me to know, is it thoughts? Is it planning? Is it behavior? Are you like, doing something to carry out those plans? And has there been attempts? Because it's kind of to say that suicidal ideation or suicidal thoughts are not dangerous. I don't know if I should take a break, because you can ask me questions.
no.
Otherwise, I'll just keep talking forever.
No, I think
But
this
yeah,
is really, really great.
okay.
And yeah, I think it's really, really great to make that distinction between someone having the thoughts of taking their own life and actually then
Yes.
executing it. And
Important.
yeah, and I guess, thinking about it, we all sort of want to escape from life sometimes, we all do that in some ways, especially when we experience difficult times, and we just want to not have that, and we just to deal with that. So there are different ways of escaping, and I think for us in Bardo Cafe, we would highlight that it's actually quite normal for us to have those thoughts, and it's actually unless it goes into a direction where you actually want to execute that, we all have that. And what I would like to explore as well is the conversation about that. So if someone voices that they would like to take their own life, or they're thinking about it, how can we respond, and how can we make things easier? Because I think, from my perspective, or from my own experience, there's a lot of fear around having that conversation. And and that's, if you could say a few things about that, that would be
yeah.
great.
So yes, yeah, definitely. And with respect to people's individual kind of reasons and things, but my experience is that that not being afraid of thoughts. So thoughts are only thoughts; they're not action yet. They should be taken seriously, because having suicidal thoughts or thoughts about killing yourself kind of says that that the person is in immense pain. But the truth is that the majority of us have those thoughts, in our lifetime. I mean, sometimes we are so sad and so out there that we are contemplating this as a kind of a way out, and sometimes it can even be a release to think about it, like just because if you feel so stuck. So I always say that take suicidal thoughts, if you have them, as a means of a sign that it's time to find help, that it's a sign that you are really in pain, right? That it's time to reach out, which can be very, very difficult. And that brings me further around to what you said about the stigma, right? That it's difficult to kind of approach this subject. It's difficult if somebody. I'm going to try to explain a little bit from what I know from the person who is thinking about it and the person who wants to help. So it's two different perspectives. But the obstacle to this is that it's kind of stigmatized and taboo. So, for instance, the person that has these thoughts can feel a lot of shame around it, and I can think that I shouldn't be having these thoughts. Yeah, I have all these things to live for. People are telling me, that I have a good life. It's really wrong for me to have these thoughts, and that can make one even more isolated. And if there's one thing that correlates with with immense emotional pain, then it's isolation. And then on the top of that, you might be mad at yourself for having them, not and knowing that it's actually perfectly normal. I don't have anything to be afraid of. I can explore this in my mind, and I can say it out loud, that it doesn't mean anything bad or anything wrong necessarily. And then from the person that you might, if I was to have thoughts or or planning, that if I was to say to somebody about my thoughts, the other part that the taboo or the stigma creates, the other obstacle is that the person that's listening might be quite afraid or going to panic when they hear things like that, right? And begin to tiptoe around the person, being scared that they might say something wrong, that might push the person. But the thing is, if you think about voicing suicidal thoughts as, what I said earlier, as I want help, or when you voice it, it means that you already are seeking advice, you are seeking a way to get help. Then voicing it is a really, really good thing, and absolutely nothing to be afraid of. So, if you are the listener to this, it's just about listening to the person, and not thinking about so much about the suicide. Think about the pain. Just ask, so what's going on with you? Can you tell me more about it? Can you I can listen, not being afraid of listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listening without fixing things. Listening, because if somebody is suicidal, they often have, you can be pretty sure that they have thought about every possible way out. So they're stuck for a reason. So fixing things or coming with good advice is not the place. But the fact that you listen and you're there, and you're brave to get in there and ask questions. How are you feeling? What is going on for you? How did you get here? Extremely helpful and necessary, and no reason to be afraid of that.
Yeah, it could be a quite a relief to express that. I can imagine.
It's difficult. Yeah. It can be difficult. I think it's like, from my work, it's very difficult to talk about these things because there's so much social pressure around this. It's like we're not allowed to talk about that. We're not allowed to talk about mental pain, and especially not if we have suicidal thoughts. So I think it's difficult conversation to have, but it should be had, because that's the way to kind of take the pressure off, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I mean, I was just thinking of distilling it down to its lowest point. I think it has a lot to do, initially anyway, with the nature of mental and emotional pain. And it's different from physical pain, which can be located somewhere in your body. And if you do have, let's say, a painful right knee or a painful joint or something, you can negotiate with that joint. You can say, okay, I won't get up very quickly. I'll get up, very carefully. I'll extend my leg, all these things. But emotional, mental pain has no locus. It can't be found. We can't say, oh, it's existing right here. And I mean, vaguely, sometimes it's an incredibly painful feeling in your chest. But the nature of it, the fact that it can't be located anywhere, so it's very vague in a sense, but it's also so powerful in a sense that you come to the conclusion that if I destroy the place that it dwells in, it's gone. And of course, you realize that means destroying my own consciousness, my body, everything else. But at least you have found, a way of saying this is how I can oppose it. you know. And the planning itself is almost a relief in some ways, because it gives you control over something that's previously uncontrollable. There's a saying that I like that somebody came up with about 300 years ago in France. I forgot who it was. He said, the pleasure of holding one's head up high all year round is amply paid for by the certain quarter hours that we must live through. And so he's saying a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes. Chronologically, this suffering, it can be short bursts like that. And you can just say, if that person had held on, if they had just delayed that impulse for another 15 minutes, maybe they got it. But it keeps coming back. It goes away and comes back. And so it just is not negotiable in any way. You're powerless over it. So you're looking for control in the form of planning, I thought. That's what I observed in myself. And some of my plans became really detailed. I didn't want my son to see my half destroyed skull, you know, in an autopsy photograph or something like that. So I thought of at one point like just shooting myself in the head. I had a gun in a small boat out at sea, so I could fall in the water and be taken out by the tide. And then they could say I just disappeared, you know, things like that. So all these elaborate plans give you a sense of control and of something that can't be controlled. But I wanted to, like, I just the point that the again, this pain can't be located somewhere. I mean, I felt it in my chest sometimes. And sometimes at one time I was lying in bed and I say, okay, just shut my heart off. And I counted down the beats like 8, 7, 6, you know, I'm 0. Well, of course, my heart continued to beat down here. But I was looking for some kind of control. Again, there's two things. There's 2 points I'm bringing up: is the control issue, and the difficulty of. I mean, the tendency to destroy the body is identified with this pain, because that's the only place you can find it. If it was in my leg, I could ask my leg be amputated, and I'd be free of it. Let's say I know someone who has terrible pain in his leg, but this is a much more vague kind of pain.
Yeah.
Powerful, vague.
Do you think anything would have helped during that time? Like when, you know, was there anything that you felt would have helped from the outside, from your environment? Obviously, the internal pain is so strong. Do you think that there would have been anything that would have been helpful to you?
I don't really know. I mean, I think attention in some ways, but it's also you feel like you're wasting other people's time. Or, I mean, in this part of the United States, it's pretty taboo. So if someone commits suicide and then an obituary is written of them, they say that this person died of a sudden illness. When I happen to know that that person put a garden hose in their van and they ran it from the exhaust and just fell asleep. But the sudden illness theme, you know, kind of conceals that, which is too bad. But I mean, it's almost becoming.
And I
But
guess,
what would you like if someone could really pay attention? Someone that you trusted or loved could really pay attention without judgment, right? Without just saying. In the New England part of the United States, there's a little bit of a taboo. It's fading over time that you're considered weak if you seek out the help of a therapist or a psychologist or something like that. It's a kind of you're feeble-minded, you know, you're weak. And so if there was somebody that you could completely trust, you know, who just says, listen, call me anytime, we'll talk about anything. I won't think you're weird or anything like that, you know. I mean, that might help. If you could kind of get the attention. If it's for a romantic thing, you're going to want the attention of the person who's caused you the suffering, but that you might not be able to get that.
yeah.
But
Yeah, and I guess that really highlights the stigma around having suicidal thoughts and dealing with that. And
Oh, I worry about it, even if this
suicide.
is recorded
But,
and it somehow gets
mm,
out that I testified in such a
yeah,
panel as
yeah,
this. People could just
yeah.
say,
Yeah,
weird,
and
maybe tomorrow.
I just want to add to that again, it's important to say that because this is exactly the isolation and feeling that, I'm so alone in this. There's nobody really having that kind of normalizing is say that, we all have these thoughts from time to time. Maybe depending on the emotional pain, but we all contemplate death from time to time. And it's not that we have to uh, talk about this every day, but at least as you say, Walid, that it really touched me when you say that that even the doctors are not writing it because then that's exactly what happens in some countries where taking your own life is it's actually you can get prosecuted for that. So it really kind of highlights that if people who are attentive, or if we reach out to somebody, not being scared of telling what's going on in our mind, right? Even though it might be suicidal thoughts. Yeah.
Um, I mentioned it to one person who I'd formerly trusted. I said I was thinking of maybe going into the city and buying some fentanyl and just overdosing, just very simply just fall asleep. And they said, "Oh my God, that's terrible, and please don't do that." And then it slipped a little bit back into taboo again. So I kind of, in other words, there was no like, well, how have you gotten to this point, or what? Just call
Exactly.
me anytime. Let's talk about this later on, or something like that. So you end
Yeah.
up feeling kind of embarrassed and stupid. Um,
And
um,
it's diving into that pain with you, I guess, or allowing you to just express. Um, is that what you mean? So,
yeah.
someone to just be there and sit there and listen to the pain, like Anja said, the suffering underneath that. That's really what we need to get to when someone voices those thoughts. Without trying to be a therapist, I think, from my perspective, because I'm not a therapist and I don't
Right.
have skills, but at least to be open and fearlessly listen to what's happening, even though it might make you feel uncomfortable. And that might be something that that would be really good for people to hear. That
The
in
way.
itself makes
Sorry, go ahead.
such a difference.
Yeah. It would almost make me comfortable if it was in the reverse. If someone would talk about it, instead of keeping it as this terrible secret or something like that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah.
sorry, Walid. And yeah, what do you, from your perspective, in terms of what would you recommend for someone who is having those thoughts to do? Obviously, in terms of professional help, but also in other ways, whatever you can share.
Yeah, that's the thing, because that's the difficult thing, is the reaching out. That's that's the most important thing. And that I think taking, because people, when I speak to people, they get really scared of having these thoughts. They think that they are wrong. They think that, as I mentioned before, that they are really judgmental towards themselves for having thoughts like that, and get really like having patients that maybe walk around in the living room and look for places that might fit an attempt, and those such thoughts can be extremely scary. So again, not be scared by, I mean, this is easy to say. You cannot just not be scared by the thoughts, but taking the thoughts as pain uh, doesn't mean taking them that, okay, I am really I'm really low, and now it's time for help. So suicidal thoughts, that's like a red light should blink, that now it's time to reach out. which is the most difficult thing to do, because part of it is feeling isolated, feeling wrong, feeling stuck, right? And that kind of fits with, like, because our theme is dukkha here, right? That there is no prediction for these things, but I read some research from one of my colleagues, and she found out that what I mean, she calls it tunnel vision. It's kind of a little bit how you feel that stuckness. You get, it's like your reality goes from here to being here, and it's like having a very small view of life and an intense focus on oneself and the suffering, and not seeing other people and situations around you. So again, when that happens, it's kind of the only way is to open up, to try to find somebody. There are so many helplines, it doesn't even need to be somebody that if you don't have network, if you don't have friends, the most important thing is to make contact. Because it's just take it as okay, I'm having these thoughts, so that equals I need help.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's really not so much else to say. Sorry, Walid. Yeah.
No, I just
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a time thing, but continue, please.
no, I just noticed that Gift is here. Hi, Gift. How are you?
Good. I just woke up,
No
but
problem. That's
maybe
okay.
that.
I know it's early for you. I'm just going to quickly introduce Gift. Thank you so much for coming. So, Gift is a website designer who runs his own branding company in Taiwan. He has studied yoga with various teachers from around the world and initiated the first yoga festival in Taiwan, which continued for about 6 years. Gift is originally from the United States. So we have spoken about the stigma around suicide, not being able to talk about it, about having thoughts of wanting to take your own life, and also what we can do. And Walid, I don't know how much you've heard, but Walid shared a little bit about his thoughts as well, that about his story. So I don't know, Gift, if you want to talk little bit about your thoughts. I don't know how much you heard already, and your story, and also what would have helped you during that time when you did experience this intensity of emotions and mental, suffering, if you want to call it that.
Sure. I mean, I have plenty to say about it. But I suppose it's been you've all been on the call for about a half an hour, so I'm assuming a lot of things have been discussed that I missed. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I
Okay.
can, yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Yeah. So I have my own story, which probably isn't the most important part of the story now. But yeah, there's the exciting part. There's the suicide attempt, and it wasn't successful. I'm still alive. I have a disability now. I broke all the bones in my body, and but I'm still here, and I can still enjoy my coffee. So that's good. But I think the thing to say, because how long is this call we're supposed to end at like 8 or something?
Oh, I don't know.
We thought maybe an hour altogether.
Okay, sure.
If
So
possible.
I guess my contribution will be how I feel about it is that I think there's the surface level story for me that is, well, here's what I think happened in my mind. I had some kind of mental illness begin to emerge, and then I couldn't deal with it. And then people want to know, like, what could have been done and what could have I said? And, and I think about that too. What did I do wrong? Was it a mindset? Was it, this or that? And it's very hard to land on something perfect. Like, this is the one thing that could have been said. This is the thing that could have been done. That's what we want to find. And yet it feels a bit hard to really hold on to, if that makes sense. So now I'm sort of moved beyond this idea that there is something that could have been said. And I don't think that a lot of people, well, I like what I'm saying is that, for me personally, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I think that what has happened in my life is meant to happen in my life, and that everything that's happened for me has been very important for something that I need to learn in this life, because I wasn't taught, I don't know about everybody else, but I was raised in the US. We weren't taught a lot about learning to allow, like learning to allow what's really going on in your life and in who you are and in your situation. And allowing, I wasn't taught to allow myself to really feel how I actually really feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're taught about changing, we're taught about improving, we're taught about getting somewhere. We're taught about like trying to figure out something for our lives that makes us feel worthy of being appreciated and valued. And that something and that somewhere is usually beyond where we are and what we think we are. And so I think a lot of mental health issues, including my own, are connected to that very strongly. That's really one of the biggest problems, like just not allowing ourselves to feel what's really going on, or allow ourselves to be with what's really coming up, and trying to manipulate ourselves into thinking some other thing, yeah.
Yeah. And perhaps having to be or have, like expectations, having to live up to expectations. Is that what you mean as well? Sort of
I guess expectations, it's just that, like, if you're, yoga, I've spent, 10 years practicing yoga, learning from yoga teachers, becoming a yoga teacher myself, so to speak, where I'm teaching classes. And what I wanted through a lot of that, and what a lot of people in my classes want, is we want to get to peace. I want to become the teacher that I've learned from. I'm hoping that if I can emulate that enough, that I will become that, and suddenly I'll be this wise spiritual person that will allow me to appreciate myself the way that I really desire to appreciate myself. But the problem is I just can't get there, because actually that's not who I really am, and that's not the entirety of what's happening to me. I'm just trying really hard to be something. But what happens when I allow myself to see that, what? Inside me is a lot of anger. Inside me is a lot of the opposite of peace, that I'm not peaceful, that I have a lot going on inside of me that needs to be, that wants to be expressed, that has nothing to do with being peaceful and being content and being spiritually blissful in the way I think I need to present myself in front of people, that I've been struggling so hard to just get right. But I can't. And that's the problem, because in my life, I didn't have a lot of people telling me that it was okay to be angry, that it was okay to express my anger in some way, that it was okay to not be chill, that it was okay to be aggressive or to be assertive or to just be the person that wants to be expressed that I'm in conflict with. I'm the one that's in conflict with who I really am. You know, the meditation, the yoga wants to reveal to me who I really am, not who I think I want to be in order to feel better. So that's what I mean about it, that I think I was going through that. And that's my point, that I thought it was all about becoming my teacher. I thought it was all about this. If I did enough yoga, if I did enough meditation, then all is coming, you know, if I practice, all is coming. But what's coming? Nothing's coming. It's here. You are already here. The thing that is here for you to experience. And that's actually what yoga is. Yoga is just a participation in your life as you, the life you have now that is happening in this moment that you're trying to get away from. Whether you look at it and appreciate it or don't appreciate it, I mean, it's still what is. And that's the practice that I think was missing from my own life. It's okay. I mean, I think that's the normal progression for somebody like me. And now all I have to do is, you know, I went through a year of being pretty pissed the fuck off about what happened to me. Like, I can't believe it. I've been doing all the right things. I've been doing all the meditations and the yogas. And did I disappear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Your voice is
Yes,
on.
you
Okay,
can.
my voice is
Yeah.
here. That's the most important.
Yeah.
And yet, what happened? How could this possibly happen to me? I've been doing everything. I've read all the books. I've been doing all the work, and this happened. This is bullshit.
Yeah. And I guess it's, you know, what I'm hearing is about authenticity and being, you know, who we are, or being truthful about our emotions. And I guess there are different ways of expressing that or living those emotions as well. And this is something that we talked about earlier, is, you know, being able to be open about it and being able to say, you know, this is how I'm feeling, and this is
Yes, but people, you can be open about it, but people don't know. So when all this advice is about, like, well, talk to people. Well, I talk to lots of people about my situation, but people don't really know what to do. They don't really know what to do, and they're looking for somebody else to tell them what should you say, what could be done. There's this search for, like, you know, what's the right thing to be done, and nobody really knows, because when it comes down to it, when your friend is, it's like, I'm having a mental breakdown, you're like, whoa, I don't know what, maybe you should talk to somebody, but probably not me. Or if you're like a lot of us, you're sort of like, I don't even know if I can handle this because I think I'm one thought away from a mental breakdown myself. So this is really agitating for me. And so we actually try to move away from the people that are having mental health issues because we're dealing with our own and it's too much. So,
yeah, for sure.
You know, I think what I want to say though, is I think this path into encouraging this idea, focusing on this idea that, well, just speak up and that's somehow a solution, is not the solution. That's the wrong advice for me. That's my perspective. I don't think I'm the right one. I don't think I'm the only one. But the thing that I want to bring to the table is, no, that's not what I want to tell people. It's not about just bringing it up. It's about looking deep inside, finding somebody that can help you see where you are not allowing the thing that wants to come up isn't, I'm depressed and I'm thinking about suicide. That's not the thing that wants to come up. There's a thing that's deeper than that wants to come up. It's, I'm angry at my parents because they abused me. It's, I'm angry at society because it's it's disrupting me. It's a whole bunch of things that have nothing to do with suicide. Suicide's the solution.
And I guess exactly. And I guess
Yeah.
that's as like Anja, you're working in this field, whatever is behind all of that is what you would be working on then in therapy. Or can you tell us a little bit more about what you just said?
Yeah, I mean, I feel quite inspired by it because I think there are some really important points in terms of, yeah, the taboo or the fear of going into this conversation. It's really like an obstacle to having real conversations, like really what's going on conversations, because there is either we are too filled up with our own stuff, which is, understandable because we all have our stuff, or we are too fearful, we're afraid of we don't know what to do. So the whole thing of just being human with each other, like being like just thinking, okay, I know what pain is. Here is a person that says something about pain. Okay, I'm gonna have a conversation about that because I know what it is to be in pain. I have been in pain. But instead we focus so much on the suicide part. So I think that's my experience. So of course this is not a general one, but that's my experience of really talking about what's going on for that person. And as Gift said, suicide is the solution. This is not a conversation. We're not talking about suicide. We're talking about all other things um, there. So
Yeah.
that's my experience personally.
Yeah, and I think we need to see that these are individual viewpoints of how we might, see the world and how we feel about, whether it's meant to happen or it's not meant to happen, our own belief system around it. I think in this session, we obviously don't want to encourage anyone to just be like, oh, well, maybe that's my path and this is what I should be taking. What we really want to highlight in this session is that there is help out there and we can reach out. And that if someone, like you said, Gift as well, if someone voices that, to be open to that conversation. This is what we are trying to encourage here, to really have that conversation and to be available. And even if we don't have all of the answers, and even if we don't agree with what the other person says. Walid, did you want to say anything from your perspective? Is there anything that you would like to add to this?
Um, some of the things that Gift said, I kind of related to, in the sense that I mean, ultimately, I'm not complete in that journey right now. I'm still in it, but I did find my way out by letting these things, these bouts of pain and mental, emotional pain happen. I let them pass through me in a sense. I didn't fight them or anything, and each one seemed to strip away something that was superfluous in that way, um, and it's still happening. In a sense, it's been several months, and it may go on for much longer, but it was a very slow, difficult way to find one's way out of that loop. I used to think that our minds are like the old vinyl records where you can pick the needle up and move it to a different song, and there'll be some tragedy in an opera and you can move it to the part where the people meet each other and they're so happy. Yeah, I mean, but the force of these thoughts and things like that was too great for that kind of trick to succeed. So I just had to let it, as the poet Hafiz says, let it season you, let it pass through you.
Yeah, and
It was hard as hell, though. It hurt, but at least it was something.
Yeah.
Eventually I started to get sleep. I mean, I couldn't sleep, so I was sleeping an hour or two each night, and that was aggravating the condition. the physical sleeplessness. Somehow it was some kind of a loop was forming, and a very bad loop. And I somehow, spiraled out of it. So I don't even know how. I'm kind of an atheist, so I don't want to resort to, Deus ex machina, like some kind of divine intervention. But
yeah, and it really shows the intensity of those emotions and those thoughts, doesn't it? Listening to you, Walid, and Gift, what sort of happens underneath, and with Bardo Cafe, we would like to continue this conversation about suffering, about emotional pain and dukkha, and dukkha in a Buddhist sense can be described as dissatisfaction, and as obviously mental pain, emotional pain as well, but also, perhaps coming out of balance or having this discomfort there. And we will continue this conversation around dukkha from people who know more about it from a Buddhist perspective. And it's not so much about putting Buddhism on someone, but I think it might help to understand. And I'm just really grateful for you, Walid and Anja and Gift, for being here and for sharing your story, because it's quite enlightening in a lot of ways. And I hope that it allows people who are watching this to allow people to talk, and that it actually will be of help to people, no matter how insignificant the conversation might seem, that someone can voice their pain, and that it's important for us to check in with people and to check in and see, how are you going, and really opening up to, I really want to know how this person is going, and not being like, oh, if they tell me this, then I'm going to back off, or dealing with our own fear, which I was exposed to as well in my life, having to deal with that fear of having a conversation.
I'm sorry. It was the overarching problem was an intense feeling of grief, that everything that's familiar to you is dying, and it's not being replaced by anything, and it's your mind is in complete turmoil at that point. But it is that grieving feeling, that sense of just everything dying. It's so difficult to cope with. And the longer you stick around, the worse it's going to get.
Well, that's also that I think that's also because that's also about not allowing, or not, well, you could say accepting. I think Kristen's been using the word accepting. To me, they're similar, but it's about being in resistance to what wants to be in your life today, not the person that I was yesterday. The person that I was yesterday or 10 years ago is gone. I'm not doing cool handstands and really beautiful yoga postures anymore because I can barely stand up. And so there's a grief, and there's a grief with that, but there's also a resistance to allowing the person that I am now to be here, and seeing that it's fine. Like there is no problem. The problem that I'm having is me in myself with myself. I'm okay.
The resistance aggravates in a way, even if it's your first go-to behavior.
Yeah, that's such a good point, that resistance, that when we resist those feelings, or, we're trying to be like, oh, well, but I can't have these thoughts, or I can't be angry, like you said, Gift, I can't be furious about something, then it actually becomes more, rather than accepting and being with those emotions.
Well, I think also emotions tend to go through a path that we want to take the shortcut. So what I want to do is take a shortcut around my negative emotions because I know the impact that has on friends, family, and then get quickly to peace and happiness. And so I take a shortcut. But the problem is that I've just missed something really important that needs to be experienced or witnessed in my life. And so
Mhm.
I now believe that, you know, if for me, I talk about anger and stuff because I think that's me, but by going through that, I then can actually maybe get to the place that I want to be. I'm not going to stay in anger and disruption forever, but I need to be able to let those things out and find a way and a capacity. And that's I think what's really difficult because most of us, it's like, well, I'm doing these practices. I'm getting into, religious practices or spirituality or meditation because I want to be peaceful, because I want to be happy. That's the whole idea. So I'm trying. It doesn't make sense to be like to hear me say something like, maybe you just need to be really angry and absurd for a bit too, before you get to peace. Well, that's not what I want, but maybe that's what wants, not what you want, but maybe that's what wants to be and what is in you. And there's connections to this, programming from your youth, your childhood, your ancestral connections that would take hours to talk about. But I think that's important, to address in people that,
For
it.
sure. I think what you've
Mm.
just said about, I'm not going to be angry forever is something that is really good to highlight as well, that there's sort of
Maybe.
this rising and falling of our emotions as well, and uh, you know, there is an
Or
impermanence of
or
things.
or maybe I will be angry forever. And so what? So what?
Mm.
So what? Maybe that's okay. And if I can find the okayness in what I am and what is there, then actually I can be okay. That, I'm an angry person and I have a right to be angry. I have very valid things to be angry about in my life, and I'm allowed and I have a right to express those things. And if people don't like it, that's their thing. I have to learn to be okay with who I am and what wants to be expressed. And the people that will serve me and be part of my community will come into my space because of who I am, not because of who I'm trying to be.
Mm. Yeah.
That I think is important, but most of us are dealing with a situation where, oh, my family, you know, I might have a dad that's like any expression of anger, hang the phone up. Well, what are you going to do about that? I want a connection with my dad. I don't want to make my dad mad. Well, I can't be angry, I guess. Or I
Mm.
don't want to lose my friends. Maybe I have friends that are just like, we don't deal with anger. We don't hang out with angry people or well, what are
Yeah.
you going to do? You want friends. Well, there you go. There's your
And
work. There's your real work.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think everyone is also different in dealing with things and
Yeah.
different
Mm.
personalities and different, prominent
Could I
emotions and all of
could
that.
I just could I add just I would like to say I'm just so grateful that we are really digging deep into this, because this is exactly for me where the problem is, that we don't really talk in depth about what surrounds suicide, what's underneath, what's next to it. And so it's just really having these honest, fearless conversations without expecting any outcome of it is really, really, I feel it's a good example of how you can have these conversations. So don't be scared, just go get into it.
Yeah,
um
but the thing about saying don't be scared to people, I think is also an issue that needs to be unraveled because, it's easy to say like, well, don't be scared, bring it up. But what do you do when somebody is dealing with their, like their issue is, I'm a pervert. Like I have perverted thoughts that I'm afraid if I express to anybody, they're going to judge me, because you're going to judge them, because you will, because people will, or these kind of things that, like, it's, we have a 13-year-old niece, and whenever, like if you have like 13-year-old people in your family, it's like, hey, how's it going? What happened today? Nothing, like, you know, no, not nothing. Nothing didn't happen. Things happened. There are things going on in this person's life that can be talked about, but why is it not interesting to talk about what's there? It's, well,
Yeah.
because they don't think that I'm going to understand. They're worried that I'm not going to connect with what they want to share. But that's the way most of us are kind of thinking about things when we get into adulthood. Like, man, I've been spending 10 years making sure everybody thinks I'm this awesome yogi. What happens when I have to tell somebody, actually, I hate people.
Mm.
Uh-oh. Well, that's not very yogi, like, better not tell anybody that, like, I think that is a big hurdle for a lot of people, and you just internalize it and you shut down, and I don't actually think just saying, well, you know, be free about it, it connects with people that well. That's why
Now,
we've been saying this forever. It's been the same kind of advice, the same kind of focus on how to fix it, and it doesn't work. The
Well,
suicide rates aren't going down, they're going up like crazy. They're going up, way
Mm.
up.
Mm.
could you say that one becomes alienated from oneself by so many layers of what artificiality and thought? Let's say that one becomes not disconnected, that's too simple, but alienated, the distanced from oneself, and that leads to this chaotic desire.
A little, I guess so. You could say it that way. Um, Alienated because we have, uh, it's, you've heard that concept of like the layers. I mean, in yoga, it's sort of like the veils,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, of illusion and the things on top of us. And it takes a lot of time to kind of take off all the layers to get to what's really deep inside of there. But I think there's been this training that, well, I take off all the layers and then I'm going to find peace inside. You know, I have a lot of friends that get into meditation and they're like, well, I do meditation because I'm going to find peace. And what I'm saying is, maybe you're going to take off all the layers and you're going to find something ugly. Maybe you're going to do the
Yeah.
meditation and you're going to find something that disturbs you. And that is what you need to look at and find time to spend time with and become okay with. How do you get there? How are we encouraging people to get there, to be there, not to move away from the thing that's disturbing
Mm-hmm.
or disruptive, that the parents are saying, like, well, how do I get my child to be happy? No. How do you spend time with your child who is unhappy and be there in the unhappiness with them and allow them to be unhappy? Make space
Mm-hmm.
for the unhappiness. Don't move away from it. Don't push
Mm-hmm.
push it away. Be that. That's what's there, and it's supposed to be there for you in your life in this lifetime now. That's your curriculum. And
Mm-hmm.
we're so afraid of it, and we're so afraid of it in other people too. Like, how do I get this person out of it? No, how do you get them into it? Deeper into it. Deep, deep. Get into it. Stop
I
running away from your life and who you are and what's going on, your grief, whatever it is. Just be in it. Get in the water.
stay
God,
with it
yeah.
if you can. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I want to say. And that I think is different and uncomfortable for some people. But that's, people want to, I've got people all the time now that want to ask me, like, well, what should I say to my friend and then I say what I want to say, and they're like, I don't know if I like that. I'm like, well, you're asking me. I'm the
yeah, and
one
I
that had
think
the mental illness. I'm the one that jumped off a building and I lived. I'm the one that has a story, and I'm telling you what I think. And now you still don't want to hear it because you didn't want to hear what I had to say before the accident, and you don't want to hear what I have to say after the accident. What you want to hear is what you want to hear because you've built up a thing around you about what you think it should be. And that's the problem, that we can't move into a state of reality because that's yoga. Reality.
I think it's really, really good to highlight that what you've just said, Gift. I guess it's also, that we all have our, like I said before, we all have our different perspectives on things as well. So we just need to keep that in mind too. That, but like you said, when people ask you, then of course, then that's your answer. I would like to probably wrap up this session soon because I think all of these conversations, I'm really grateful, Gift and Walid and Anja, because it really shows us as well the question around meditation, for example. And I think, we can definitely do a session in the future that can dive into that a lot more, especially in terms of emotional pain and suffering, and how all of that works from a Buddhist perspective. Obviously, there's no time to do that right now, and it would take a lot of time to dive into that. And, just a few points that you have made, and I think it's really, about just being open as well and just being allowed to feel the emotions that we feel and being able to express them as well. So I think we definitely got a lot out of this discussion. So I'm really, really thankful to all of you. So we are going to share numbers of helplines as well, international helplines, just in case someone does want to reach out to someone for professional help. And
I called
please,
one once and nobody answered.
oh no.
And it was the American Veterans Administration, which takes pride in this very extensive system. Nobody answered. I laughed at it.
That's not good. Yeah, I mean, there are many, phone numbers out there, I think these days, because it is such a big, big problem in our society, that there are helplines around. And please talk to a friend if you experience any of these, thoughts, and talk to a friend, family, helplines. And this session will be available to watch on YouTube. And please follow us on Instagram, the Bardo Cafe. And thank you so much for coming and being so candid about this topic. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, take care.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Gift.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
To everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.